Under the lights in primetime in Landover, Sam Darnold decided to go nuclear as the Seahawks blew out the Commanders. How did number 14 get it done in primetime? Going to be breaking it all down here on our latest post-game edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in this late night show after a thrilling blowout primetime win for the Seahawks, whether you're listening in from San Diego, California, or over in London, England. Special thanks to all of our valued everydayers. Seahawks getting the job done and then some with a win that should probably put the rest of the NFC on notice, a 38-14 blasting of the Commanders. And honestly, that score doesn't do justice what the Seahawks did today, coming out, firing on all cylinders, coming out of the bye week. Big plays on offense, defense, and special teams. It was as complete of a game as we've seen Mike Macdonald's squad play this year. It moves Seattle to 6-2. They are still in first place in the NFC West with the tiebreaker over the Los Angeles Rams right now. Everything seems to be clicking for the Seahawks, even with all the injuries that they had and a number of unsung heroes that I'm going to be talking about on this show. But at the end of the day, the conversation, it starts and it ends with the scintillating performance today from Sam Darnold, who just was absolutely magical in this game. As Mike Macdonald summed it up, he is playing ridiculous football right now for the Seattle Seahawks. And just to look at his first half stat line, 16 for 16, that is not a typo, no incomplete passes from Sam Darnold, 208 passing yards, well over 10 yards per attempt. Again, it looked like a typo looking at the halftime statistics. 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, a perfect 158.3 passer rating. He did throw an interception in the third quarter that I'm not going to say tainted or stained, but it took him away from that perfect 158.3 passer rating. But still, a passer rating over 140 absolutely carved up this Commanders defense in the first half. They had no answer for him, whether he was in the pocket, sometimes making guys miss to create a little extra time. His maneuvering, his pocket presence was exquisite today, as good as we have seen from Sam Darnold, getting out of the pocket on bootlegs and making things happen. You name it, he was just dropping dimes. Perfect pass after perfect pass after perfect pass. And he did that throughout the first half to give Seattle a 28-0 lead at one point. And the defense and special teams, they helped set up these opportunities. Tayakata with an interception. Brandon Peely, of all people, with a punch out for a fumble that was recovered by Connor O'Toole on a kick return. Those set up quick scores for the Seahawks and put them up 20-plus points before you could even blink. And you started to see some fans start to hover towards the exits late in the first half with things just unraveling for the Commanders. And a huge part of that was the play of Sam Darnold, who I can name 9-10 throws in this game that were just flat out fantastic. This was not one of those games where a quarterback dumped the ball off a couple times and some big after the catch plays happened. Certainly some after the catch in this game. A 60-yard touchdown for Cody White just being one example. Talk about a guy that has been through so much just to get these opportunities bouncing on and off the active roster, going back to the practice squad, comes up in this game and breaks the tackle along the sideline and then takes off for a 60-yard score. There was plenty of yards after the catch, but several of the throws that Darnold made, these were not easy throws, and he's just making it look easy. Second touchdown to Torrey Horton. Talk about a guy that stepped up today with Cooper Kupp out, Derek Young out, and Jake Bobo out. 3 receivers down. Horton scores 2 touchdowns, the first 2 touchdowns of the game for the Seahawks. The second one was a 35-yard corner route that could not have been placed better. And obviously he got a couple of steps and had great separation, but still the quarterback has to make the throw, dropped it right in the bucket in stride for Torrey Horton for his second score. Then he threw his best pass the entire night right after Peely's forced fumble, and it was to Elijah Arroyo, his first touchdown in the NFL. And the safety that was on him had really good coverage. The ball went right over the safety's shoulder and into Arroyo's hands. It was as good of a throw as you're going to see on an NFL field. And that's what he was doing to get to 16 for 16. This was not 15 screens and one little quick slant. These were difficult throws downfield. And as he's been doing all year long, Sam Darnold just keeps delivering. And I think you come out of this game, there's a lot of things that you can talk about. The swarming defense, and it stinks that at the end of the game, Jaden Daniels had that horrific injury. I wish him the very best in his recovery. You can debate whether he should have been in the game or not. It doesn't matter. You never want to see that. But they were swarming him. There were a few times he got away. They gave up over 150 rushing yards, but a lot of that was in garbage time. Overall, the Seahawks did a pretty good job of bottling up Jaden Daniels, and Commanders were trying to get him moving early. Seattle did a really good job of limiting him. He had 153 passing yards in this game. The secondary was making big plays. The pass rush came to life, particularly in the second half. Kept their pass rushing lanes. The integrity was solid for most of the night, and they did a really good job. That's just an afterthought, though, because of the way Sam Darnold and his receiving core. Jackson Smith and Jigba went for 8 catches, 126 yards. It was the quietest 126-yard game you're going to see just because of the damage the other receivers were doing, scoring touchdowns. If he would have had a touchdown, it would have been different. He had made some incredible plays. 4th straight game with 100-plus yards, which had never been done in Seahawks history. So he's got his name in the record books. Darnold ties the single-game record with 17 straight completions, had his first completion in the second half. Converted Ty Warren Moon in that category. So this was just a historic night by the all. I thought Clint Kubiak did a masterful job early in the game. We talked so much about this leading up to the game and our keys to victory on Friday. I talked about how this team needs to come out and they need to attack the edges with the run game. That's literally what Clint Kubiak did from the outset. They got a nice 6-yard run in the first play from Ken Walker out wide right on a toss. They got Jackson Smith and Jigba an 11-yard run on a jet sweep, had a couple of other runs where they were really testing the edges. They had a bubble screen they wanted to run. They got called back with a false start. They were attacking that. So I just thought it was a masterful job in scouting by Clint Kubiak and executing the game plan. And then Sam Darnold off of that. Once that run game got going early, he really got in a rhythm and he just got into a flow that you rarely see from an NFL quarterback. So it was a ton of fun to watch. There's a lot more to dive into with Sam Darnold. But again, this was as complete of a performance as we've seen in the Mike Macdonald era in all 3 phases. The Commanders are 3-6. So you can look at them and say, well, they definitely haven't met expectations after making the NFC Championship last year. But this is a team that has still a lot of talented players out there, and they were playing with their quarterback back, and he looked healthy up until the end of the game. Obviously, that unfortunate play where he suffered that grisly arm injury. He looked healthy running, issues with his hamstring. So they were playing a team that had a lot to play for, and it didn't matter. Seattle just snuffed that out early. The defense set the tone. Sam Darnold put down the hammer and the lightning. They were getting big plays from unexpected sources. And with that, they now at 6-2 are very much in the mix for one of those top seeds in the NFC. They got a chance to get the number 1 seed if they can get this ball rolling. And they're doing it with a number of key players injured. We'll see what happens with Ernest Jones. That was the only negative coming out of tonight. Jones exiting late in the first half with a knee injury, did not return. I did see him, a couple other reporters as well, down on the sideline, was not happy that his helmet was taken away from him. Maybe the way the game was going and it was already pretty much decided at the end of the first half. Seattle may have just been cautious there. Mike Macdonald said might miss a game or two, but really no concrete information at this point. We'll see what Macdonald says tomorrow and where Ernest Jones is at. But that was the only real negative coming out of this game. You got to hope that was not a significant injury and they're going to be missing him for any amount of time. But if he is out a game or two, Drake Thomas looked good at the Mike spot. Tyrese Knight ended up leading the team with 10 tackles and made some really nice plays. They can weather the storm. It's the depth that continues to show up, but you're hoping that Ernest Jones is going to be ready for the Cardinals coming this week because he is a big player going up against Kyler Murray, likely to start next week. coming off his injury. He is a big player that's had a couple picks in his career against Kyler Murray. So you're hoping you have him back. If this is an injury that ends up being significant, I think that changes the way John Schneider is looking at this trade deadline coming up on Tuesday as well. So tomorrow, a big day, getting updates on that front. But away from that, hard to find many negatives with the way the Seahawks played tonight in any phase. They were just utterly dominant from the start and took this game over, seized it, and the Commanders had absolutely no chance to bounce back and get back in this game. When I come back next, going to be dishing out our game balls on offense, defense, and special teams. I continue to dive into this thrilling blowout win over the Commanders. That's coming up next here on our post-game edition of Locked On Seahawks. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get into the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next fourth quarter comebacks or who's going to score the next three-pointer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push in the fourth quarter. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the post-game edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. A special thanks to all the 12s tuning in, rolling here live from Northwest Stadium. And Sam Darnold, as I mentioned, what an exhilarating performance by Seattle's starting quarterback. And you can pretty much say that he turned this stadium into scorched earth with the way he was playing in the first half. 282 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, perfect 158.3 passer rating. And that led the way in a 38-14 beatdown. So obviously we're looking at the game balls. This is the most obvious one I think I have had in my 6+ years of podcasting and doing the Locked On Seahawks podcast. I don't know that I've ever had a more obvious candidate for a game ball than Sam Darnold. And I don't know if it was the best performance I've ever seen by a quarterback in Seahawks history. Russell Wilson had some ridiculous games in the prime of his career. But in terms of a half of football, I don't think it's debatable. I don't think that we have seen a Seahawks quarterback ever do what Sam Darnold did in the first and second quarter tonight, with 282 passing yards, all 16 throws being completed, 4 touchdowns. A few times he had masterful work in the pocket to extend the play. Generally had really good pass pro, but I don't know that we've seen a half of football better at the quarterback position in the 50 years the Seahawks have had existence in the NFL. They had been in the league. I don't know that we've seen a half of football better than what Sam Darnold did today. And again, it wasn't just the completion rate being at 100%. It was the throws he was making, a lot of downfield shots. There was one at the end of the first half that Jackson Smith and Jigba went for 26 yards down the sideline. It was an incredible catch by JSN because the defender was trying to knock the football out of his hands, and he demonstrated incredibly strong hands to hold on to the ball without bobbling it. But the throw was also incredible, beating the coverage. There were a few slips in the second half, but this was as impressive of a quarterback performance you could see. In that first half, it truly was. If there is a perfect 2 halves of football by a quarterback, we saw it tonight from Sam Darnold. So that was easy for him to be the offensive game ball winner. 4th one he's had this year, and it's remarkable. ESPN's QBR, there's been 4 QBs this year that have gotten 97+ score. Sam Darnold now has 3 of those 4 games, with tonight being the 3rd one. So you can keep mentioning him in the MVP discussion. Maybe he was kind of in the peripheral going into this game. I think after tonight in front of a national audience, Sam Darnold is very much now in that mix as a legitimate contender to win MVP in his first year in Seattle. What he's doing in Clint Kubiak's offense right now, it's just absolutely magical, and he's playing remarkable football, leading this Seahawks offense. On the defensive side of the football, I actually had a couple players that I considered for this because they gave up 14 points, a late touchdown in garbage time. They had a late one in the first half. But generally, this was a really good performance by the defense. They got a lot of pressure on Jaden Daniels. They got their hands on the football several times for pass breakups. It really was a solid effort at all 3 levels. But we got to go with the player that had the most electric play of the night, aside from Sam Darnold, a bunch of those throws, and that is Ty Akata. The interception that he had came right after Darnold's first touchdown, a rollout 4-yarder to Torrey Horton. And Washington had got a couple first downs. And then guard Chris Paul had a face mask penalty on offense, one you don't see often. It ripped the helmet off of Ernest Jones, drew a 15-yard penalty. Suddenly it was 3rd and long. And on that play, Mike McDonald got aggressive. He sent Devin Witherspoon on the blitz. Witherspoon got a hit on Daniels, and it led to a wobbly duck coming out of his hand towards the sideline. And Tyakata high points the football in coverage against Jalen Lamb. And he looked like a wide receiver on his play. He had toe drag swag, getting both feet down. Mike McDonald summed it up to look in slow motion with the way he was able to do that and held onto the football through the ground, which I don't know that a lot of defensive backs would have on that play, but it was one of the best interceptions that I've seen a safety have in a Seahawks uniform. We know some of the talented guys the Seahawks have had back there. That was an electric interception. And Okada had a couple really nice tackles in space as well. Didn't give up any big plays over the top. He is continuing to play really good football, but that interception, it really is what got that snowball going that turned into an avalanche, because Darnold comes back a couple plays later, 35-yard touchdown. Then you get a special teams turnover. That turns into a touchdown the very next play to Elijah Arroyo. Suddenly it's 21-0, and things just continue to unravel worse for the Commanders. So as McDonald pointed out, this was really a play that was crucial in transforming this from a closed game early into a blowout. That interception near midfield, setting up great field position on a quick change up, a quick turn there, sudden change. Seahawks cash in, and the route was on at that point. So Tyakata continues to play at a really high level, and this has to be just music to Mike McDonald and his staff's ears, because Julian Love's going to miss at least 3 more games now, being an injured reserve. And you're 4-1 with Tyakata in the starting lineup. It isn't just that he's in the lineup. He's making impactful plays every single week. I know I've certainly been vouching for his play for the last month, and he just continues to deliver. He keeps coming up with big plays. So Tyakata with his first defensive game ball. I've given him a special teams one before, but his first defensive one in his career to go with his first career interception. And on special teams, this is the most unlikely thing to happen tonight, and that's crazy because the interception by Okada, you had Cody White with a 60-yard touchdown, Torrey Horton with the first 2 scores. I mean, there were so many things that you couldn't have thought were going to happen tonight, but I don't think any of them would be more of a surprise, that wouldn't be on your bingo card for expectations, than Brandon Peely forcing a fumble on kick coverage. We're talking about a 330-plus pound nose tackle on kick coverage. Now, the rule changes have made it that teams can be more flexible, putting big-bodied guys out there, and certainly don't have to run very far now. Brandon Peely, all he's got to do is just go blow up blocks, and I can see the point in having it out there, but I doubt Jay Harbaugh and his staff on the special team side of things were expecting Brandon Peely to go down and make a huge play, punching the football out of Jalen Lane's hands for a fumble, and then Connor O'Toole, the undrafted rookie out of Utah, recovered it. So a couple of unlikely characters there, but more so Brandon Peely, because you just don't, even with today's rules, you don't expect to see a massive nose tackle playing kick coverage and making a play like that. It was, again, the most shocking thing of the night. That had a lot of shocking things that happened for the Seahawks tonight where everything was going well. But Brandon Peely, that is a play that is going to be remembered for a long time by this football team. But it's another example of a guy that is just looking to do whatever he can do to help this football team win games. And it might not seem like a conventional move at all, but Jay Harbaugh has done this with a number of things. This keeps making things happen in a positive way with different strategies and utilizing different players. They are maximizing that 70-man roster with the practice squad on special teams as much as anywhere. And this is just another great example with Brandon Peely getting this opportunity and seizing it. I don't know how much we're going to see him on kick coverage moving forward, but he's proved he can do it. And it might open the door for some other big guys to get opportunities to be able to do it on this new kickoff rule. And so I love the ingenuity. I just didn't expect to see that. I'm sure the coaching staff didn't expect to see that either. So a big play from Brandon Peely that ended up leading to Arroyo's touchdown on the very next play. That was an early dagger in the Commanders as the Seahawks continued to turn a potential rout into an absolute laugher. Brandon Peely played a key part in that with that forced fumble on special teams. Coming up next, it's time for 3 up, 3 down. or maybe 3 up and 3 up this week. I haven't done that very much in my time on Locked On Seahawks, but again, it's hard to find too many downers coming out of this game. It's Stock Watch time. That'll be coming up next year in our post-game edition of Locked On Seahawks. Welcome back to the post-game edition of Locked On Seahawks. This is your host, Corbin Smith. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in, and thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate the support of the podcast. The Seahawks improving to 6-2 in resounding fashion, a 38-14 win on the road in prime time against the Commanders. A dominant win in all 3 phases, getting the job done, a complete game, which Mike Macdonald's really been wanting. They haven't quite gotten there. We saw that tonight, getting up to a 28-0 lead and 31-7 at half. Never was any doubt, really, once the Sam Darnold machine started to get going in the first half. Let's get to our weekly 3 up, 3 down, and I've done this one other time in the regular season in my 6 years doing post-game shows. There's typically at least a couple guys that you can put on the downside. I don't know that anybody played bad tonight. Played poorly for the Seahawks. There might have been a few mistakes here and there, but this was, again, as complete of a game as I've seen in the Mike Macdonald era. So let's do a little 3 up, 3 up, shall we? And we'll do it on offense and defense. We'll start on the offensive side of the football. I want to call out in a positive way an entire group coming out of this football game. Sam Darnold, for everything that he did today, there were a few times that he was able to unleash big-time throws with guys hitting him, pressure bearing down. A couple times that he made defenders miss and extended the play in the pocket. Certainly deserves credit for that, but the pass protection was fantastic. Under a 15% pressure rate on his dropbacks in the first half. Really, the entire offensive line rose to the occasion, and they did a really good job of keeping Darnold upright, keeping the pressure away. When they got him out on bootlegs, they did a nice job. And I thought that the run blocking, late in the game, they would have liked to be a little bit better. They ended up averaging under 4 yards per carry. But early on, the run game was effective, and it did set up that play action, and it helped Sam Darnold get in the flow. And I thought the line was doing a nice job as part of that. So I really thought the offensive line as a whole played really well tonight. And I thought the pass protection was outstanding. Sam Darnold did some things to help himself, but more so than other games this season, this felt like it was a really, really strong outing in pass pro. And these guys did a great job keeping Commanders pass rushers, whether it was 4-man rushes or when they brought the blitz. They were doing a great job picking guys up and allowing Sam Darnold to dissect this secondary the way that he did in historic fashion in the first half. So let's give the offensive line some credit. And Cody White, I mentioned the journey. We're talking about a guy for 5 or 6 years that has been bouncing on and off the roster, onto the practice squad, and he has continued to stick with it. Whenever the Seahawks have called his name, he's come up with big plays, but none bigger than what he did today, the 60-yard touchdown that he had a couple of nice blocks in the run game as well. If Sam Darnold wouldn't have thrown it behind him on the interception in the third quarter, he might have still been running on that play. He was open, just not a great throw, as Darnold attested to after the game. But I thought Cody White did a lot of really fun things today. We got to see him go on kick return as well. Just a guy, another one that can step in and do any number of roles. He just wants to play, and he's valued in the locker room. Everybody trusts him. So I love to see Cody White have the success that he is having when he gets his opportunities for the Seahawks. And last but not least, Torrey Horton. Cooper Kupp being out, they needed Horton, the Seahawks did. They needed him to step up in a big way. And not only did he do that, he had the best game of his young career, first time with 2 receiving touchdowns in the same game, benefiting from the amount of attention Jackson Smith and Jigba is getting. He's winning downfield. He's winning on quick routes, the 4-yard touchdown, his first touchdown. Made some smart decisions in the punt return game on fair catches in particular, that in the past we've seen guys let bounce to like the 1 or 2 yard line. He's playing with poise. He's playing with confidence, and he's bringing that big play element from another receiver not named Jackson Smith in Jigba. He's doing it consistently, going to keep stacking these positive days. And look, he's got 5 touchdowns on offense and got a special teams touchdown. He got 6 touchdowns as a rookie. He is off to a tremendous start, and he answered the call today with Cooper Kupp being out. and showed he can be a number 2 receiver. And maybe that eventually ends up being what happens with this team. And Cooper Kupp would be a very dangerous number 3 guy with a much different skill set once he gets back from his hamstring injury that prevented him from sitting up tonight. Hopefully he'll be back next week. We'll see. But Torrey Horton has answered every call that the Seahawks have made to him to this point, and he's still got so much room to grow, just scratching the surface of his potential. Really fun to see him go out there and have these big plays and consistently come through for the Seattle Seahawks. Meanwhile, on the defensive side of the football, again, we're doing 3 up in this week's session because everybody was bringing it today. There's so many unsung heroes. Tyrese Knight is one that as the game unfolded, especially the second half when he came in, there's been so much speculation about what was going on with him early in the season. He missed all but he hasn't batted an eye. When he's had his chances to go in, he's still been playing hard. He's been preparing himself, and he comes in for the second half. He ends up leading the team with 10 tackles, had a couple nice plays at the line of scrimmage, had a tackle for a loss, made a play in the passing game as well. There's still a lot of potential for Tyrese Knight. And maybe the Seahawks will look at this as a situation where we're still confident if Ernest Jones is going to miss a game or two, we think Drake Thomas can handle the mic, and we absolutely expect Tyrese Knight to come in and continue to play well like he did tonight. This is a good chance for him to rebuild some of that confidence that was lost with him maybe not being close to 100% early in the season and then losing his starting job as a result. And Mike McDonald's going to give him opportunities if he earns those chances. So I thought it was a really nice performance from him given the circumstances. And staying on the defensive side of the football, my other big winner here, Jarran Reed. I felt terrible for Jarran Reed because the first split sack that he had in this game, they ended up giving the total thing to Leonard Williams. I don't necessarily agree with that. They both deserved a partial sack on that. I'm still going to subscribe to the fact, though, they should just be given a sack. I hate the partial sack thing, but both these guys were right there on Jaden Daniels. And later, he got that half sack, finally had his most disruptive game as a pass rusher this season. He's been the lowest man in terms of pass rush win rate, certainly didn't have the pressures, but today he was on Jaden Daniels multiple times, made some nice plays in the run game, continues to play at a really high level, even without the attention with the other two big guys in the middle, Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, who both played really well tonight as well. But Jarran Reed, I thought, had his best game of the season and deserves a call out for that. And on special teams, let's give Connor O'Toole his kudos here. Finally gets a chance to suit up for a couple games, but to see the undrafted rookie take advantage of that chance after Brandon Peely punched the ball out and recover the fumble, the biggest play he's obviously had in his career leading to this point. And it's another young guy that you're just kind of easing along with hopes that, you know, with the athlete that he is, former wide receiver, you're hoping that he can be a guy that can contribute for you eventually, rushing off the edge as a rotational guy. You can't discount how much a play like this happening in a regular season game can boost his confidence and help the other areas of his game. This could be a play that helps catapult him a little bit. If they need him to rush some off the edge, they can absolutely turn to him. Don't be surprised. This is a game changer for this young man. And obviously it was big for the Seahawks in this contest, immediately turning into Elijah Arroyo's touchdown, 26-yarder down the seam. Set up perfectly by Connor O'Toole's recovery. So again, big play for him, big play for the team that could end up paying dividends for him later down the season if Seattle needs help from the edge position. As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky on Seahawks on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Coming up tomorrow, I'll be joining Rob Rang. The two of us are going to be diving into our Monday musings coming out of this victory. A lot more to unpack, offense, defense, and much more. Make sure that you're listening in and enjoy the rest of your Monday morning here. Go Hawks.